course, it's entirely up to you. You can run it, you know.
That just lets, to
Five?
wrap it up and then I
Four?
tease. Hi, this is Maria Sanchez with the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. Thank you so much for your eyes. And in pursuit, again, of the November 2nd election, we have invited all the candidates that are running for office in Ventura County. And in this case, we have Ventura and Santa Barbara County candidate Tim Allison, who's running for Congress, District 24, in studio with us. And we wanted to get to meet the candidates. So Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and taking the time. I know you're busier, and what do they say, like than a one-armed wallpaper hanger?
Yes, something like that. All I know is I'm very, very busy, knocking on a lot of doors and meeting a lot of people.
And good for you.
Yeah.
So before we get into the position itself and why it is that you're running and why you think you're the best candidate for the job and why you have the temerity to challenge an incumbent, let's talk about your who you are, the man you are, the husband you are, the father you are, the community member that you are. What brought you to Ventura County?
Well, I'm a husband and a father. My wife, Vicki, my son, TJ, who turned 8 years old this week. He's a second grader at Madrone Elementary in Thousand Oaks. I've been extremely involved in the community. I'm a small business person. I'm president of the Ventura County Small Business Coalition. I've been involved in the nonprofit world. I've been involved in the environmental community. Just my background and experience with this community has been a background that has enabled me to interact with a wide variety of individuals in the community and on a wide variety of issues.
And what brought you to Ventura County?
Well, I was born and raised in the Midwest, raised in Minnesota. We used to say for the University of Minnesota, instead of I came, I saw, I conquered, it was I froze, I thought, I transferred.
But it's Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah. I was born there, so Minnesota and Wisconsin kind of growing up, and moved out here. I went to college and law school there. I was an economics major in college. Found out I was actually pretty good at it, enjoyed economics, outstanding senior in economics, natural progression to go to law school after that. I got a law degree from the University of Minnesota. By the time I got out of law school, I knew of way too many unhappy attorneys, and I vowed to never be one of them.
Really?
So I got the law degree and the legal education, but went a different path. Helped out with political campaigns, and then went into the small business world.
And then why Ventura County?
Mostly for the quality of life. Ended up here in California, moved out to California in 1996. And it's not the cheapest place in the world, but it's certainly a wonderful quality of life. We're in Newberry Park right now because of the quality of the schools. We wouldn't be there if it weren't for the phenomenal education that the area and the local schools are able to provide my son. Like most parents, we want the best for our son. We want him to be able to grow up and do anything he sets his mind to do. And to do that, the strength of the schools are critically important, in providing that foundation for him.
But you moved to Ventura County before you had your son.
Yeah, well, we moved to, I originally moved out to California, actually long before I met my wife or met my son, and I moved out for political campaigns. I was helpful with Walter Capps' election to Congress back in 1996. And got to know Walter and Lois Capps very well. Wonderful, wonderful people. Lois is a good friend, and as the neighboring member of Congress, that's incredibly important. And Lois was very encouraging. She was one of the first people to approach me and say, Tim, you really need to be running for Congress. We need to change some things in Washington, D.C. We need to change the representation that the 24th Congressional District has been getting, and that was 14 years ago. But since then I met my wife and fell in love and got married and had a son, and I think we're stopping at one. We like the idea of the guards outnumbering the inmates. But it's been a wonderful ride, and I absolutely love living in California.
Now, Tim, is this your first time as a candidate?
It's my first time as a candidate. I've been very involved in the community. I've been involved in campaigns, even run some political campaigns. But for me, yeah, I actually didn't think at this point in my life I'd be a candidate for anything. But at some point, you either have to stop complaining or you have to do something about it. And I was frustrated with what I saw in Washington, D.C. Frustrated with, unfortunately, my complaints are somewhat bipartisan. It's no longer about the quality of the idea. It's no longer about taking care of people. It's more about who's proposing the idea. If it's a Democratic idea, the Republicans have kind of a knee-jerk reaction against it, and if it's a Republican idea that Democrats do, at what point did we lose the
Higher good?
yeah, the higher good, looking out for the public? And I think that's what people are frustrated right now with Washington, D.C. They're frustrated because it's this intense partisan politics. It's no longer about doing the job as a public service.
Now, being a first-time candidate, having gone behind the scenes with candidates, you know better than anybody what to expect. I've volunteered on campaigns my whole life, since I was 18. I used to think that I wanted to be a candidate because I love to lead and I love to make a difference. But I get more and more frustrated when I see exactly what you say, even if you're not you, but if one is lucky to get elected, what you thought you were going to be able to do, you're usually bogged down by. Now, I don't mean that to sound pessimistic,
right,
because obviously people do make a difference, and we do have elected officials that have made a better life for us as a country. So why this position and why now?
Really good question. I think the basis behind being a candidate for public office is a belief that you can make a difference, a belief that you can make things better for your constituents and for the next generation. As the father of a now 8-year-old son, I want to make sure that the world we're passing on to my son and his generation is one that we can be proud of. I think right now we're in danger as a society of being the first generation that didn't leave things better for the next generation.
Agreed.
I'm tremendously concerned with the fact that we're handing off this next generation a huge debt, a debt that they might not be able to pay off in their lifetimes. We're handing them our debts, we're handing them our problems, and then we cut education. And what kind of a legacy is that? And so I step forward saying, okay, I can at least do something better than the representation that we've been receiving in this district. When somebody calls their congressional office and they don't even get a return phone call, then the person in that office is not being a public servant. And I'm hearing that across the district, from Buellton down to Thousand Oaks, from Simi Valley up to Lompoc. I mean, this is a huge, huge district. But across the district, we're hearing from people that are saying, I'm not getting anyone listening to my concerns. And the incumbent in this office, the incumbent Elton Gallagly, his staff doesn't return phone calls. They refuse to do a town hall meeting, and that kind of thing is very troubling to me as a citizen, as a voter, as a candidate. That's something that I can do something about.
Now, some might suggest that your path is a little unconventional. Maybe you would have wanted to get your feet wet locally in terms of the city that you live in, or school boards or something. You've taken off, I mean, this is a huge bite that you're taking.
Right.
And I can only imagine how daunting it must be. And the fact that you're running against an incumbent who's been around for so long. So we're going to get into that in our next segment, because you are also inspirational, that you're taking on the system and you're not going to let it be as it's been, and the old boy network, win out, or that sort of thing, which is one of the priorities of our program. KADY TV is about good news, about inspirational stories, about homegrown heroes, about people overcoming adversity. And so you are, again, now helping lead that by your example. So we are visiting in studio with, let's see, congressional candidate of the 24th District, Tim Allison. You are watching KADYTV.com. This is Maria Sanchez. We're going to take a brief break and we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Maria Sanchez here with the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. My personal adage, which I hope will be yours, is one voice, one vote, one paycheck. What you do matters. We all matter. And in that regard, that's why we are interviewing the candidates. Meet the candidates, because November 2nd, everybody needs to vote. And if you haven't registered to vote, you have until October 18th to do so. So we are introducing the candidates about Ventura County, by Ventura County, for Ventura County, which is our mission statement. And to that end, we're pleased to continue our conversation with Congressional Candidate District 24, Tim Allison. Again, Tim, thank you for taking the time. I can only imagine, I should say, how busy you are. And the fact that you're visiting us in our studios here is really greatly appreciated.
It's great to be here and be talking with your audience.
Thank you. Now, we discussed briefly in the first segment about Tim, the man, the husband, the father, the community member, your volunteerism, your education, and now we ended our segment about talking about why this position and why now, and then what it is that you're hoping you're going to be able to do. So in our third segment, I kind of want to just focus in on how you're going to make a difference with your election. But this time, maybe give us, was there a particular issue that was rankling you? Was there something that you finally said, okay, that's it. Now, I'm not just going to take it anymore. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. I'm not going to complain anymore. I'm going to throw my hat into the ring.
Well, I think like many Americans, I was frustrated with the idea that Washington, D.C. is no longer listening, that we've had an incumbent in office for 24 long years, and this district deserves strong representation. You know, when somebody calls their congressional office, they're calling usually because it's the last place they think about calling, not the first. They're calling because their mom got turned down for breast cancer treatment. They're calling because their uncle can't get through to the Veterans Administration. And the member of Congress serving that area, their staff has a responsibility to take all of those concerns seriously, to return phone calls, to help their constituents out. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, constituent service will be a hallmark of my time in office. It's something that I take very, very seriously because it's public service. If you're not taking care of your constituents, you shouldn't be in office.
So to our viewers, first of all, will you discuss the area, because it's both Ventura and Santa Barbara counties that the 24th District is, and also when might somebody avail themselves of your office other than the examples that you just gave?
Well, the district is very, very large. The district is Ventura County and Santa Barbara County, kind of the non-coastal pieces. So it's Thousand Oaks and Camarillo, Moore Park and Simi Valley, 2/3 of the city of Ventura, but not Oxnard and not the coastal portion of Ventura, Santa Paula, Fillmore, Ojai, and then in Santa Barbara County it runs along the hillside, so it's the Painted Cave and San Marcos Truck Club communities, San Ynez, Solvang, Buellton, and Lompoc. Crazy district, huge district, gerrymandered district based on redistricting. It's strange to lump communities that don't typically have a lot of things in common with one another in the same congressional district. The district is likely to change very significantly after the next redistricting. And people call their congressional office for all kinds of amazing things. You know, they're calling because they're not sure of who else to call. And you know, a member of Congress, typically in most districts, the member of Congress has 3 offices. They have one in D.C. and at least 2 in the congressional district, sometimes 3 or 4. And so the idea is that a member of Congress is supposed to be there with their staff, taking care of their constituents, answering their concerns, and handling especially anything related to the federal government.
And do you think that there's a population that's underserved more so now than ever before? Is there a particular focus that you're going to have, that you see a need that's there that hasn't been met, other than the responsiveness?
Well, I think there's a tremendous focus in so many different ways. Right now, we need to be creating jobs. There's some wonderful governmental programs through the Small Business Administration, for instance, that people aren't sure how to avail themselves of those services. They're not sure how to apply for a Small Business Association Administration grant, how to be able to provide funding for their company, or even things like being able to hire an additional employee or invest in their business. Those are things that a member of Congress should be helping their constituents to help create jobs in the local community. But the federal government is a very large bureaucratic institution, and because of that, there's all kinds of opportunities for individuals to be able to tap into the services of the federal government.
And so are you suggesting that your office would become a liaison in that regard to help?
A congressional office is supposed to be, yes.
Huh. And that probably, I mean, that's news to me, so I don't know what that says, but...
well, it probably says that things aren't functioning in the way that they're supposed to be functioning right now, and probably haven't for the last 24 years.
And then in terms of our viewers, if there's
Yeah.
a way that they could get involved or that they could contribute, or because this is a partisan election,
Sure.
correct?
Yeah.
Can you speak about your party and what kind of support you've been able to get from them?
Well, first of all, they can definitely go to my website at www.timallison.com. Very creative name. It took a team of marketers to figure out what that website should be, but it is TIMALLISON.com. How's that for a shameless plug?
Hey, whatever it takes.
and they can get involved in the campaign. They can make a contribution. They can help by letting their friends and neighbors know. They can come to one of our events, and they can help walk a precinct or make phone calls. But this is a grassroots campaign. This is about people talking to their friends and neighbors, and that at the end of the day is what it really is all about. There are so many major issues in this nation today that need to be addressed. But for me, it kind of boils down to what kind of opportunities are we providing. I was fortunate enough in growing up to have wonderful opportunities. I learned from parents that the values of hard work and having a job and providing for your family was something that was at the heart of it all. And right now, as I walk across this district, I've knocked on thousands of doors, and so many people tell me, I want to work. I want to be able to provide for my family. I just can't find a job. And until we start creating jobs and providing the opportunity for people to be able to provide for their families, then people aren't looking at the next thing. They're trying to figure out, okay, how can I think about putting my son in a soccer program, or how can I have my daughter involved in a local Girl Scout program when I don't know if I'm going to be able to feed them. Mm-hmm. And so unless we create those kind of opportunities, unless we make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide jobs for people, then all the other issues are kind of secondary.
Now, what have you found have been some of your major challenges that you might not have expected, since you have run campaigns before and now you're the candidate?
The most dysfunctional part about politics today is the fact that money is so pervasive in the system. As a candidate, having to sit down and dial for dollars and ask people for money, and the prevalence of political action committees, it makes the entire system somewhat dysfunctional. It means that incumbents routinely get reelected even if they're not doing the job, because they have so much money to be able to throw at a political campaign. In this district, where we've had an incumbent that's been there for 24 years, it's yet another example. But it's not just about this district, it's about nationwide. Right. The fact that money is so pervasive in the system, it tells me that the system is screaming out for campaign finance reform. Mm-hmm.
And to that end, you're in a system that you can't change yet until you get into it, right? Sure. And so what do you think the odds are that that'll happen? Because you're not the first one to say that, obviously.
No, I think it's going to take the active involvement of the public. I think people are going to have to step up and be part of the solution. I mean, individuals standing up and running for public office, that's a start. Right. But it's also going to take the public. At some point, people have to say, this isn't the system that we want. We need to make changes in Washington, D.C., and they have to be wholesale changes. In order to change things out there, we need to start by changing who we send to Washington.
Now, you are in the conversation with us with Congressional 24th District candidate Tim Allison, and he is taking on an incumbent, challenging the system almost, if you will. And I don't mean to make you sound like a renegade, because you're not. Obviously, you're a fairly conventional, traditional man. But I am impressed by the fact that you decided, okay, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and I'm going to do it now. So when we come back for our final segment, we'll talk about what Tim would like to do if and when he gets elected for Congress, and also what you can do if you would like to help out. And we have the contact information that we're posting also on the website and during our conversation now. Maria Sanchez for KADYTV.com. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. Maria Sanchez here for KADYTV.com. Our mission statement about the county, by the county, for the county. So if there's something that you'd like us to know about, investigate, attend, support, promote, please go to our website, which you're on obviously because you're watching, and click Contact Us, because we want to be wherever we can be, and if it's concerning the county, that's where we are. So for that reason, we are interviewing all the candidates that accept our invitation. We have invited them all. So if you know of a candidate and you'd like to see them have a conversation with us here, please let us know in that regard. And we're continuing and following up our conversation with 24th Congressional District candidate for Congress. We have Tim Allison in studio with us. And again, Tim, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course.
And
it's great to be here.
It's just amazing to me that you've taken on this huge project. And you seem like, you know, well-adjusted, centered, balanced, well-rested, happy. You know,
So,
I mean,
so far so good.
It's working, dude. So I'm glad to say that. So let's talk about, if you get elected November 2nd,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
There's so much that needs to be done. You know, we definitely need to be creating jobs. I'm the president of the Ventura County Small Business Coalition. Small businesses are the economic engine of our society, and as a nation, we should be supporting and encouraging small businesses in their efforts to create jobs. You know, targeted tax breaks so that small businesses start hiring again, start investing in their business. We need to be making sure that we improve education. That's the legacy that every elected official at every level of government should be leaving for the next generation, because nothing is more important than a strong educational system. Protecting our environment. We live in this area not because it's the cheapest place to live, but because of the quality of life.
Correct.
And that's worth fighting for and worth protecting. And then finally, as the parent of an 8-year-old son, I can't see how in good conscience we can be handing off this kind of debt to the next generation. I think that our legacy to the next generation should be one not of debt and problems and educational cuts, but it should be one where we're handing off the next generation a society that's better than the one that was handed to us. And so I think for me, those are kind of the basics. I also want to just pick on one very specific idea, and I know your question was a broad one, but I don't understand why we're not providing the leadership to bring our entire community together in the education of children. Why we don't have a program? I would love to help implement a program of 1 million mentors, to be bringing individuals throughout our community, newly retired folks who have tremendous skills and abilities and have now a newfound amount of time, bringing people into our local schools. We have some schools that have this abundance of parental involvement, and other schools that have almost no one because we're in a different place in time, where both parents are often working, where some students are coming to class without having had breakfast, where teachers in a time of increasing class sizes have to play traffic cop even more than they can be teacher. Why aren't we bringing the skills and the abilities of our entire community to bear on our educational system with mentors and tutors? And to me, that kind of a program, government isn't the only answer, but it can certainly be part of a solution if we provide the leadership.
Now, how would you enact that? Write legislation, get funding? What would you do?
You know, when I'm not running for office, I've been in the real estate world, and often my sellers would come to me and they'd say, "Tim, what's going to sell my house?" And I say, "I'm not sure what's going to sell your house. It could be an open house, it could be an ad in the paper, it could be my contact with other real estate agents, it could be a whole number of different things. I'm not sure what one thing it's going to be, so I'm going to do them all." And it's the same way in terms of how we make sure that our young people are lifted up, how we make sure that they're learning, that they can keep up with their classmates, that those that are on the higher end of the learning spectrum are challenged and encouraged and not brought down to the rest of the class. So I don't think there's any one answer, but I think we have to try it all. I mean, I think we have to bring people into our school systems that can provide encouragement and excitement and motivation to our young people and inspire them to do everything they possibly can do. I think we also need to provide after-school programs for those that are falling behind. I think we need to do the whole package, and I think the next generation deserves that from us.
Now, and Ventura County is fairly environmentally aware. I would say probably more astute than most. I know Northern California has their tree huggers too, but I know you're involved with the environment. What do you want to do in that regard?
Well, you know, I've been fortunate enough to have a background that has been involved in building coalitions. We put together a program in Santa Barbara County where there was a huge problem with closures of our oceans and our beaches because of creek and ocean pollution. We brought together the environmental community and the business community, and would have never been successful in our efforts, which now bring in $2 million a year toward cleaning up ocean and creek pollution. But we were only successful because the business community and the environmental community got together and said, this is a major problem. Every time there's a beach closure, we're a tourist-based economy and people won't come and stay at the local hotels. And so by building the coalition, by bringing people together, it was actually kind of fun because some of the surf rider folks
I was just going to ask.
would go door to door, and these guys are great. It was mostly guys, some women as well, but they'd say, "Well, dude, I'm not sure about this whole political stuff, but this is important." and they came from such a genuine place that it really resonated with people. And then when you also had a local business person standing up and saying, this is the right thing to do, our effort took a 2/3 vote. And we were successful.
Wow.
Because we built the right kind of coalition. And I think we need to do that for all of the major issues of the day. You know, and it's not just cleaning up ocean and creek pollution, although that's important. It's not just protecting our air, although that's important. It's not just making sure that we don't overdevelop the area, which, you know, we moved here because of the quality of life.
Right.
And I think most people would say that they live here because it's got an incredible quality of life. But, you know, if we don't protect it, then we're killing the goose that laid the golden egg. It hurts us from a business standpoint because we are a tourist-based economy, but it also hurts us as individuals because we're we're undermining the very reason that we're so interested and willing and passionate about this place we call home.
Now, the two issues that you got into this segment, education and the environment, that doesn't come free. So what do you suggest in terms of either funding or raising money, or is it through grants, or, I mean, there's a cost associated with it.
Sure. I'd say two different things. First of all, what I want to make sure is that money that is being put into the educational system is spent wisely. The fact that
Existing funding.
the fact that that so much of the funding that are provided for our educational institutions don't go directly into classroom learning
Right.
is very troubling to me.
Right.
And I think we need to be making sure it's the public's money and it should be spent wisely and efficiently. But I also don't